Our next guest is a two-time NBA champ with the Bad Boy Pistons. He was a 12-time All-Star and Basketball Hall of Famer. From NBA TV, Isiah Thomas.
And by the way, I heard a few members of the crowd say, "Oh, it's the real Isiah." No offense to little Isiah, but this is the Hall of Fame Isiah.
I just say I'm the old one now.
No, the original.
I'm old Isiah now.
Oh.
Well, welcome to Undisputed. What are your thoughts on Game 1 last night?
I thought it was an interesting game because I thought both teams came out and really didn't have their rhythm. And I thought, for the first half it was kind of close. And then Durant took over. And when he took over, it was kind of like, wow. You have been waiting to see this moment on the big stage and how he would perform on the big stage. And he wasn't shy about it at all. And the performance that he put on last night, I think it woke everybody up to just how great a basketball player he was. Because, before he got injured, he was the best player in the league. And I think last night he came out and he reestablished himself as, you talk about LeBron and you always talk about KD, a couple of years ago in terms of who was 1 and 2. And actually KD, I think he was the MVP of the league, and then he broke his foot. And, last night he looked like that guy again.
So the player you saw last night was better than LeBron James.
Well, wait a minute. Just in last night's game,
has he emerged
in a singular activity in a singular game? Yeah, he was the best player on the floor last night.
Does he have a chance in these finals to prove, in a bigger picture, that he's better than LeBron James?
See, I look at LeBron James in a broader category. I don't look at him in terms of what he is, what he does on the basketball floor. What he does outside of the floor. I take the totality of what he's done as a champion. And when you're looking at a champion, the way I was brought up, he or she has a responsibility not only to perform inside the lines, but outside of the lines. They have a greater responsibility in terms of, uplifting the team. And also, if you have an opportunity to uplift society, then they take on that responsibility. That's what the Muhammad Ali's did. That's what the Jim Browns did. That's what the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's did. So that champion, the way I was brought up, when you're the best player on the team and you're the leader of the team or the best player in the league, you have a greater responsibility to move the game, to move society forward. And that's why I look at LeBron James in that way.
Done that.
Yes.
I will give that to you for sure.
So that's my criteria.
The comparisons, it just will not go away. LeBron versus Michael.
Yeah.
How close is LeBron? Some similarities and some differences.
I look at LeBron and what he's done is mind blowing with what he's had to work with. And what I mean by what he's had to work with, LeBron James came straight from high school. Do you know who his high school coach is?
Drew Joyce.
But I'm just asking. Do you know?
No.
Do you know?
I know St. Vincent, St. Mary, but I don't know the coach.
So this is the point I'm trying to make.
Quotes from
right?
Yeah.
He didn't go to college.
Yeah.
He's taken every rookie coach he's had to the NBA Finals. So from an educational standpoint and a knowledge base, where did this brain come from? I mean, he's the Einstein of basketball. Because when you look at myself, you look at a Jordan, you look at a Shaq, we had Hall of Fame coaches. Like Michael Jordan played for Dean Smith, Hall of Fame. Then he goes and meets Phil Jackson, Hall of Fame. Doug Collins, those were his first coaches. He was around Tex Winters. I was around Chuck Daly, Coach Knight. So from an educational standpoint, the knowledge that we were given and what we were able to apply out on the field and out on the floor, that came from somewhere. I look at LeBron James and I go, where'd he get all this? Because he can look at your coach, figure out your defensive scheme. He can look at your substitution pattern. He can read the stat sheet, and then he can, not only read it, but he can dissect it. Then he can come back and put together a game plan, and then he can go out and implement it. So the Tom Brady's and the Peyton Manning, so forth and so on, they all had coaches, schools, and, big institutions that they went to. LeBron James just came in from high school and said, boom, 7 straight finals. You do not go to the NBA Finals in all league at age 22 and say, I'm here with, Boobie Gibson and, Danielle Marshall and the coach. No offense to any of them, but you just don't do that in all
paint
leagues.
cans, squeegees, and a nail file. That's what he took to the finals.
But
by the way, they got swept by the Spurs. But go ahead.
Yeah, but again, that and all of us have been around sports a lot, right? And you just don't walk in from high school with no institutional knowledge and dominate a sport for the years that he's dominated. So when you talk about LeBron James, Michael Jordan, I look at from the neck up, not necessarily from the neck down, and I'm not going to judge. Again, my criteria is a little different because from a concentration standpoint and a game planning standpoint, LeBron James is head and shoulders above any of these guys.
So are you saying LeBron is better than Michael Jordan?
I would pick LeBron James.
You would?
Yeah. If I'm trying to if I'm trying to build a team, now it ain't sour grapes. Hold on, come on over here and talk about it, because I won. Okay,
he did.
You can't be dismissive of what I did. Okay, so let's keep it real now. Now, so if you're trying to win a series, I'm going with the brain. Okay, if I got to get 40 points or 50 points, then yeah, I'm taking a Michael Jordan or a Kobe. But the greatest player to ever play this game is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and we are dismissive of Kareem because every single stat that you throw up, he's at the top. So when we talk about the greatest to ever do it, Kareem is the one who's at the top
How much
of the
did
bar.
Magic have to do with Kareem's success?
Magic Johnson never won an NBA championship without Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
No,
so let's turn that question around, right?
Kareem had won one without Magic, pre-Magic, with Oscar.
So Kareem lost one game in high school.
One game in college.
Kareem lost one game in college.
81.
To Elvin Hayes.
He didn't go hardship, right? He lost
No, he went
one
the whole way.
game. So you're talking about from 1971, he was in the NBA Finals.
Yep.
His last NBA Finals was against the Detroit Pistons in 1989. Okay? So when you talk about domination and dominating the sport, he did it for 2 decades. Magic Johnson, if he was sitting here with us today, he would gladly defer to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So, let's just keep it real, and that's...
Although Kareem did stay healthy against you guys that year because Magic and Byron pulled their hamstrings, so Kareem wasn't able to win a game without Magic.
He was 45.
Well, I'm just saying.
Hey, wait, and we were double teaming him. Really, I mean, when they threw the ball into Kareem, right? And I remember Lambeer and I sitting there saying, this dude is 40 years old and we double teaming him. Like, and we got to come down there try to trap him. But, Kareem's dominance in the NBA, and, when we're in a different era of society now where the media is not as biased, and, we do have some gender and some colorization to our media now. But when Kareem came in the 70s and what he had to face during the 70s, it's almost like we're rediscovering Kareem because a lot of his voice had been so silenced and had been put to the back. And the narrative about Kareem was that he's not a good communicator. He's written, 13 books. Yeah. Got 3 movies. I think he, left UCLA with a 4.0. So it's interesting to see the emergence of Kareem right now, and I'm happy for him.
He did not treat the mostly white media very well. He wasn't very open and accessible to the media. That hurt him early on. But it's just the way it was.
Yeah, but think about those times and think about the media coming into the locker room, right? Who was coming into the locker room? And we always have to take in which we don't, we always have to look at their biases.
I understand.
Right?
You're right.
You know, their inherent biases coming in, sitting down. You know, and Kareem is a dominant figure. And what was going on in the 70s changes his name from Lou Alcindor to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar during that period of time.
Oof.
I mean, come on, man. That was real stuff. That was real
Well,
stuff.
Skip, let me ask you this, because he was, as a college player, he was at the Black Summit that was
He
organized.
went as a college player. He was invited
Right.
to the Jim Brown Cleveland Summit
Yeah.
with Bill Russell.
And Dr. Harry Edwards was one of the founding members of that. And I ask, throw this to you too, Isiah. How much do you think his sole involvement in the black and the advancement of the people of color played a role in how he was treated, fairly or unfairly, by the media, mostly white media at that time? Because he was the first pick in the draft in 1969.
No, you talking to Skip, white media?
Oh, yeah. well, let's skip.
That's the question to Skip.
I want you to chime in also, but let's skip.
I'm not old enough to answer that question.
Yeah,
You're
Skip-
old enough. You should know. No, let Isiah answer. I get it.
No, but you know, even when I came into the NBA, right, and I had a chance to go around and look and watch, and I was one of the ones who was talking about, hey, we need black officials, okay, refereeing all games. Not only do we need black officials, but we also need you know, black representation in the media.
Right.
Because the way that we are perceived as athletes and as black men is only seen through the eyes of the white male. And that needs to change.
Agreed.
And when you looked at what Kareem was going through and what was happening to him, his whole narrative, you know, was a little twisted. And when you go back and you study him, I'm a big fan of his because of what he stood for and what he was trying to do. And so.
And by the way, once upon a time, you thought that Larry Bird was getting a little too much acclaim from the white media. Remember that?
No, that was me protecting Dennis Rodman, right? And that's been well documented. And when you go back and you look at, you know, what Dennis was saying and what he tried to say, and me being a teammate, we would have done it differently. However, what race was in the NBA and how the NBA was really playing up a race. I mean, we don't like to talk about it, but the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers, right? And Skip, you was in those locker rooms.
I was.
There was a lot of racial divisiveness and a lot of racial undertones around that series being talked about and being discussed, but it wasn't in the media.
That's true.
Right? And what Rodman gave people the opportunity to do and gave the writers to do was to write about it, but use Rodman as this was Dennis Rodman's quote, right? Now let me write a column about it. Let me do a TV show about
That's
it.
true.
Because I didn't say it, right? Rodman said, but this is how y'all use Dennis Rodman to basically make the point because, and I get it, nobody wants to lose their jobs. And, you know, we have to get to a point in this country where we can talk about race relations without people getting fired, without people losing their job, so you can seriously have the conversation and the discussion about how we become a better society and how we really talk about being equal.
So, Isiah, I got to do
Go
this.
ahead.
I love you, but I love me some Michael Jordan.
That's okay.
And I feel like we haven't been fair to him. Would you agree with me the Eastern Conference was much tougher during Michael's rise and reign than it has been for LeBron over the last, say, 10 years?
So let's talk about Jordan in historical, you know, perspective, and also put him in his dominance in the right decade. Okay, the 80s was not dominated by Michael Jordan, right? He was a participant and a great participant in the 80s, and he was finishing 4th or 5th, right? The 80s was dominated by, you know, Kareem, Dr. J, Magic, Bird, and then we were in there, okay? The 90s, right? That was Michael Jordan's decade. So what we tend to do and what the narrative has been is that we take Michael Jordan and we stick him in the 80s. Okay, in the 80s, when the Celtics, and you were there, when the Celtics played against the Bulls, Was it? You know, he got 63 points in one game.
They were 5-20, 0-6 in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That was just keep that between me and you.
But of course,
yeah.
but they're calling Michael at that point Jesus and sneakers. That Bird called him that.
For that one game, Skip.
63.
Yeah, for that one game.
Yeah.
Oh, right?
Did they win?
No.
And wait,
No.
Isaiah, but a whole book.
Yeah, I'm just keeping it real. I'm just giving you
a
facts.
whole book was written about the rules you guys had to devise to stop Michael Jordan, called the Jordan Rules.
We had rules for Jordan. We had rules for Kareem. We had rules for Magic.
For Bird.
For Bird. I mean, that's called a defensive scheme, right? So we had a defensive scheme. Now, what we had to do with Jordan, and this is real, right? Jordan was that good. Well, we double teamed him every time.
Every time.
Right? But the rules played to his deficiencies, the things that he couldn't do, right? And at that time, he had a difficult time going left. So we would force him left, trap him when he was going left, put a defender on his right hand so he couldn't make the overhead pass with his right, and force him to use his left. What Michael Jordan did that you have to give him credit for is he got better, right?
He did.
And as he got better, right, the rules didn't work anymore. And even with the rules, if you go back and you look, he was still averaging 35 on us. It ain't like the rules worked, okay?
We have to have you back so Skip and you can finish this. We don't have enough time here. Thank you for joining us, Isaiah. Up next, MC Hammer is here. This is Undisputed live from Oakland for the NBA Finals.
That's my man.
Dog, what's up, baby? Good to see you, boy.
Hey, can't touch this. Love you, man. Thank you.